Judge Deborah Lippis and Vincent Ginn, and this is for Justice of the Peace Township, Department Number 1. And Judge and Vincent, if you please take a brief minute to introduce yourself and give us a little bio.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Debbie Lippis. First, I'll tell you a little bit about my family background since we're military here. My mother and father were both in the Army. And actually, they didn't know each other, but ended up being stationed in the South Pacific together. My mother lied about her age. They took her when she was 16 years old. She was in for 2.5 years and came out as a sergeant. I'm thinking she's probably a general at this point. She's pretty much militaristic. My brother was in the Navy, and my two cousins, there's more in the family, but my two cousins were Marines. So that's them. I graduated from law school and began my practice in Las Vegas as a clerkship, both federal and state, for Judge Pro and a state district court judge who's now deceased. I began my law practice as a trial attorney with Public Defender's Office, was stolen away by the DA about 4.5 years later, and so I'll combined about 10 years of trial practice in the criminal arena. I've tried, once I started counting, to be sure, in excess of 45 jury trials with major felonies, from capital cases to low-level felony cases, and just hundreds of misdemeanors.
Mr. Ginn,
Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. A little background about, I was born and raised in Las Vegas. My father immigrated here from China. He served in the U.S. Air Force, served in Korea, and my brother is active Navy. He's a doctor. He served in Iraq. Unfortunately for me, I wasn't able to enter into military service because of a physical disability. However, I went to, born and raised here. My parents had a restaurant here since 1960, was raised in the restaurant, learned some principles in there. Went to law school in Nebraska, went to undergrad here, and worked for the city attorney's office for several years, and I'm now in private practice.
Thank you.
You have about 10 seconds.
Okay. You have 10 seconds. Anything else you want to say about yourself?
No, I'm okay.
All right, very well. Then moving right along to our panel, I believe we're going to go ahead and start with Melanie. And once again, please, when you hear the beep, that means you're going to have 10 seconds left on your answer, because we do have a large panel here today. So,
I have two questions, one for Judge Lippis. It's noted here on our notes that we have a website. I know a few judges, and they're very, very wary because they are on the bench. They do not want to be on Facebook or have their websites or anything. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to address that.
Actually, I do have a website.
You do?
It's debbielippis.com. There should be a photograph there and a bio that I have right in front of me, if you'd like that before I leave. And I was actually waiting for endorsements to come in so we could begin building it. The endorsements are, the majority of them are in now, and so all those endorsements will be going up on the website as well. And then there's other contact information in case you need to get a hold of me.
Mr. Ginn?
Yes.
How long when were you admitted?
2005.
That's I don't have the information here.
Yeah, I apologize. It was one of these things where I should have.
Can't hear you. Could you speak in the
I'm
microphone,
sorry.
please?
There was a mistake for some reason that I wasn't on the list, but I'm here now. So.
That's fine.
And anything that you need to know, I would be more than happy to answer.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for being here this morning. I appreciate your service and putting in front of us. The question I have is, we all know the war on drugs that started back in the early 1990s. It's been going on a long time now, and to various degrees of success, fairly well, but the economy, we need to look at more rehabilitation programs as opposed to purely the philosophy of incarceration. How do you feel about rehabilitation versus incarceration? And to be saying question first,
I don't think there's a substitute for rehabilitation if you're talking about just drugs, because if you are addicted, it gets to the point that there's nothing that you won't do to obtain the drugs that you need. Judge Lehman, as many of you may know, was the leader in our community for or the drug court that's administered to the district court. I sat for him on many occasions for a number of years when he had to be away to work in the drug court arena. In my own court, we also have a drug court. Very successful. The recidivist rate is very, very low. I would always opt for rehabilitation versus incarceration. You can always dangle that incarceration carrot out there. Understand, but you also have to understand the nature of addiction, that there's going to be relapses. And what I think is a community that we also have to be aware of, drugs keep coming back in cycles. We're back in a heroin cycle now, and that's a whole different modality of treatment than cocaine and amphetamine. I think the
When I was working in the city attorney's office, we had what was called the Youth Offenders Court. It's called the YO Court. And the purpose of that was to help youthful offenders, and most of them were drug-related offenses, and it was to point them in the correct direction. Okay, it might not be the right direction in their mind, but it's the correct direction. And my belief is that to incarcerate someone without trying to help them, it doesn't work. And having worked there just recently, I can see how not children, but young adults are moldable, and they can fix themselves and go in the right direction.
Thanks. My name is Will. Thank you very much for both being here. My question is not incredibly specific, but deals just more with sort of judicial philosophy and view of the world. Question to both of you is, what improvements have you seen in the justice court system since you've been here, and what areas of decline have you seen? In other words, what areas do you like? You know, where do you like what you see, and where do you feel there could be some improvement? And what kinds of improvements? What's sort of your vision as to where we should be headed?
When I was first elected in 1992, I was so excited. I remember saying to myself, I'm going to be one of the ones that helped save the world. It wasn't long after that I was able to really bring that wish down, knowing that sometimes what I'm going to be able to touch is maybe just one human life a day. And to that extent, in my court, you know we're a limited jurisdiction court. You talk about rehabilitation, the things that I love the most. If you come and watch my court, you will see where I have taken a child, they're 18, but they're a child, and got them to get their GED or their diploma in return for getting a charge dismissed. I call them first so the whole audience can see what a court actually can be. I think it's imperative that judges keep the message consistent, that the law is fair and everybody's going to be treated equally. I don't think that's enough time to answer the question, but that's what I try to do, get the message out there.
Well, given my limited experience in court, I have come across certain aspects that I think have improved. One, for instance, is that with the economy as it is, people are given a better chance of succeeding as far as whether or not they have to complete their requirements or whatever. I think that there is an opportunity for people to do that. One of the things that I would change, though, is that I believe that there are some judges that have basically lost patience with that. And I think that we need to readdress that. And that's why I think I should be able to do that.
Thank you very much for coming. I have a simple question. It's about your philosophy and how you run your courtroom and apply the law. Is it your job as a judge to be fair or to apply the law? And when there's a conflict between the two, what would you choose?
I think obviously we're required to follow the law. I think fairness can take on different definitions. it's been my experience that when you have to make a decision that's either unpopular, or that 50% of the parties aren't going to like, just by the very nature of it, explaining why you have to do what you do, giving the people an opportunity to be heard, listen to them. Sometimes it can go on for quite a while. But once the decision is made, you've got to explain yourself, and this is why, and this is the case law that's guiding me, or the statute or the ordinance. So when they leave, they may be upset, but at least they have hopefully an understanding of why you made the decision you did.
Thank you.
One of the things that I've noticed is that every case is specific in itself, and to look at either whether it's fair or follow the law. Obviously, yes, you do have to follow the law. However, the fairness of it is dependent on what that person did or did not do. I believe that the fairness aspect of it has to be investigated more. So every case has to be looked at, individually and not as a group. I think, and that's where fairness and following the law would go hand in hand at that point.
That's going for your side of the table.
I'm up.
Oh, yep, Jeff, please.
Thanks for being here. I'm Travis Barrett, attorney here in town. I'm going to assume that you're familiar with the tension in DUI checkpoints, the constitutional tension that's present in the Metro using DUI checkpoints. How long can an officer detain a driver in a DUI checkpoint? You first, Judge Lippis.
Up to 6 months.
And what do you base that on?
Investigative detention. Investigative detention.
And is that like on a declining scale? The longer they hold them, the greater the probable cause has to be in the end to arrest them?
Well, I think during an investigative detention, you're looking for that probable cause to try and make the arrest. So I don't think that there's any indication of how it's going to ultimately turn out. I don't know if you've ever been involved in one of those. You smiled.
Yeah,
I've learned not to read much after all these years into body language. I actually was not, but I was behind one while they were doing it. And I will tell you, I sat there for an hour and a half until ultimately the person was arrested, handcuffed, and taken away. When they came to our car, I recognized actually the officers. And I just kind of looked the other way while my husband did what he had to do to get us on our way, which, by the way, was very quickly. The case is going to come before me. All those facts are going to be brought out by a sterling, knowledgeable defense attorney. The statutes are really pretty clear on what they need to do, and that's what I'll follow. But I know initially you start off with investigative detention.
Judge, Mr. Ginn.
Yes. Well, with the EOI checkpoints, you do have to have the reasonable suspicion as well as probable cause. Reasonable suspicion, the officer does need to take the time in order to obtain that before he can go forward with probable cause. The reasonable suspicion aspect of it should theoretically...
Take 30 seconds?
Theoretically, probably, yeah, about 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And then from that point, if he has further clues, then he goes forward with the probable cause of it. And so it shouldn't take 60 minutes to figure out what they need to do.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here, Judge. Thank you, Mr. Ginn, for your time. I'll try to keep this pretty quick. I have one question with regards to, and just so insofar as misdemeanors and minor things like traffic violations are concerned, do you agree or disagree with the fines being tailored based on one's income level? And I'm only asking that really right now because of the current economic situation. I don't know that it makes much sense from a judicial point of view to penalize someone to the point where they absolutely cannot pay.
I agree. There's an alternative to that. The statute provides you can fine up to $1,000, but you can work it off in community service. The problem that maybe you know about it, at least the problem that I've seen for so long, at some point we have to be able to fund these courts. So they keep, when I say they, it's the higher ups, the legislature, tacking on all these administrative assessments. Generally, you can't work those off in community service. So if you have a $500 fine, the administrative assessments are going to be about $122 to $137. That could break somebody. So I waive them. And when they go to community service, if they don't belong to an organization that's community related, that's a charitable organization, I refer them to Help of Southern Nevada, and I have my marshal write on their little referral slip, costs waived, so that Help can't even charge them. If they're just trying to get their families taken care of and they make a minor traffic infraction, that's what I do.
Well, one of my biggest complaints that I hear from when I was a prosecutor and even now as private defense is that fines are ridiculous at this point, especially in the city. The city fines on a 2-point violation are almost twice what it is in the county, and I've heard people just complain, saying there's no way that we can do this. And looking at each individual and seeing whether or not they are in a position, yes, because you have to take into account the single parent that has 4 kids has to pay for child care, their own bills. You have to take that into account, and you have to look at possible alternatives like community service and things like that. And if I'm on the bench, yes, I will look at those individuals and address them accordingly, and give them an opportunity to not go to jail just because they can't pay a fine. So.
Judge, first question is for you. Do you know of any training for judges to be able to recognize PTSD?
I have read about some training, and I believe it's through the website on the National Judicial College, and there's another judicial college in the East, and I'm thinking Florida. The best training that I'm receiving now actually is coming through our own vets court. That's certainly got off to a slow start, but there was no funding for it. I heard some questions asking about it, that the statute provided funding for this court. They did not. We just get these unfunded mandates all the time. But drawing together all the resources that Veterans of Politics had, plus the other veterans out there that were willing to work with us, that's where we're learning. From the counselors, from our own reading. In fact, in preparation, even for beginning of this political race, I actually went with my own cousins who have that as a result of their military service. But to answer your question, I think you can get some through the Judicial College.
Okay. Mr. Ginn, this question is for you. If elected and put on the bench, would you make it practice in your courtroom that the first question you ask any defendant, are you a veteran?
Yes, that I have no problem doing that. That is something that we as a society, American society, we owe all our freedom to these men and women that are over there fighting. And I think that is something that is very important to ask. And if they are a vet, I have friends that have come back from Afghanistan and Iraq that do have PTSD, and it is something that you have to work with. And so I think some of these soldiers that are coming back, they have to have a better, I don't even know the word, but they have to be treated better, is I guess.
Can I comment on that one moment? I think it's statutory. It doesn't have to be the first question, and it probably shouldn't be. Because you first have to get an identification, or at least a name that you're going to be operating under, and make sure that they understand why they're there. Signs are going up actually in our court so that everybody knows to at least notify the marshal if you're a vet. Then we're covering all the bases that way, but it is statutory, guys.
Question to Mr. Ginn, I'll have a separate one for the judge. You referred earlier to your limited court experience, and you're a fairly young lawyer. What makes you ready after 7 years to take a bench?
Well, I've always wanted to be in law enforcement. And growing up, unfortunately, like I said, I was inflicted with a physical disability. I had a stroke when I was a young child that basically took away a lot of physical attributes that basically disqualified me from all law enforcement, well, let's put it this way, all officers and things like that, agents. So growing up, I had to see people for who they really were. And I think that the experience that I've gotten through at the city attorney's office and now in private practice, in addition to my personal experiences, I would be a very, very fair and compassionate judge.
For Judge Lippis, it's certainly popular with drivers and attorneys, but does our current practice of turning traffic tickets into parking tickets actually make any sense? And why or why not?
Well, that practice started because of the volume. There are, I think there were, through our court, over 500,000 or 250,000 traffic citation issued. If every one of those people came in and pled not guilty, they'd have to go to trial. And I have a murder case, a sexual assault case, a child burn case. Where am I going to put it? So the district attorneys began a procedure by which they would go to traffic court, meet with the defendants, offer to reduce the charge if they went to traffic safety school. That practice has been ongoing probably even before I began practicing. That's how long that's been going on. Does it work? It generates income for the funding source. It helps people with their insurance rates because they don't come up, they don't get raised on their insurance because of the no point. So I think that it serves a purpose. Where I don't want to see it happen is in all these reckless driving cases where people are driving 100 miles an hour or more with kids in the car unseatbelted. That I don't accept.
Thank you, Judge. Issue no video.
Okay, our current reigning Miss America, her platform is about helping children with parents that are incarcerated. She was one herself. Do you think that there should be like a government mandate to have these children of incarcerated parents go through counseling?
I have a problem with lots of government mandates. Thank you. I think sometimes the government can get too involved in our personal lives. On a more local level, when you see the need for that, I think locally we can address those things maybe on your platform to gather your support and start an organization. So do I think there should be a government mandate? No. But I think that there should be programs in place locally that we can assist, and actually there are some even in our own court. So not the mandate.
I agree. I don't believe that there should be any governmental mandates, but children are impressionable, and they do need the guidance, and they do need counseling. So, but does it need to be mandated by government? No. Family, yes. The family needs to step in and and do what they can to help them through whatever issues that they have.
Very good. And with that, I think we'll just go ahead and wrap up this session for Department 1, because we just have just a few seconds left. So Judge Lippis and Mr. Ginn, we'd like to thank you for making yourself available to come to our panel and to discuss things with Veterans Politics International. So thank you very much for coming.